Let's make the foghorn from Losing It by Fisher. Oscillator A, let's do BS2 Subby Soft. Raise the unison all the way up to 8. Lower the detune. Turn on oscillator B. Let's do BS2 Filthy. Raise up the unison to 6. Lower the detune. Turn on FM from B. Go to your envelope 1. Adjust your envelope 1 so it looks a bit like this. Assign your envelope 1 to the wave teal position of oscillator A and adjust it like this. Assign your envelope 1 to the filter cutoff and adjust it a bit like this. Then go ahead and turn on the filter. Let's do MG low 6. Raise up the drive, raise up the fat, and turn it on for A and B. Now go to your alpha 1, adjust it so it looks a bit like this. Turn it on for envelope. Assign your alpha 1 to the FM from B and adjust it a bit like this. Assign it to the wave teal position of oscillator B. Now go to your effects and let's add on some distortion. We'll do tube, raise up the drive. Add on a chorus, raise up that low pass filter, lower the mix. Add on a reverb and we'll do hall reverb, raise up that mix. And then finally I like to add on a pedal distortion. I'm losing it. Let's make the bass from Fisher's Losing It. Oscillator A, let's do basic WRD, lower the octave -2. Turn on oscillator B, let's do analog DS saw and try, lower the octave -2. Let's turn on our filter and we'll do MG low 24. Turn it on for A and B, lower the cutoff a bit, maybe around 200 Hertz. Go to your effects and let's add on a compressor. And then add on an EQ, and I'm going to add a little boost around 180 Hertz or so. Then add on the Kickstart 2 or a sidechain compressor. Let's make the bass from Drugs from Amsterdam by MOPI. Oscillator A, let's do analog basic shapes. Raise this up to this pulse wave, raise up the level. Turn on oscillator B, and let's do analog basic shapes as well. Leave it on a sine wave, lower the level all the way. Go back to oscillator A and select FM from B. Raise this up to about here. Now go to your envelope 1 and adjust it a bit like this. Assign envelope 1 to the FM from B. Adjust the modulation a bit like this. Go to your voicing and turn on mono. Turn on your filter. Let's do MG low 18. Assign envelope 1 to the cutoff. Adjust the modulation a bit like this. Let's raise up that resonance and raise up that drive. Now let's go ahead and add on a compressor. And then I'll add on some tube distortion. Let's go ahead and raise up that drive and lower that mix. And then I'll add on some more saturation. An EQA to roll off some of the low end to give a boost around 1 kHz. And then Kickstart 2 for some sidechain compression.
Look at my drugs from Amsterdam. Hey.
Let's make the bass to Chromatic by Anti-Up. Leave oscillator A on the default preset. Adjust your envelope 1. Make it look a bit like this. Go to your voicing, turn on mono. Go to your filter, let's do MG low 24. Assign envelope 1 to the cutoff. Adjust the modulation a bit like this. Raise up that resonance a bit. Raise up your fat all the way. And then turn up your drive. And then I'm going to add on an EQ and dip out some frequencies around 180 Hertz or so.
This is automatic, feel that in the static.
Let's make the bass from Deceiver by Chris Lake and Green Velvet. Oscillator A, let's do analog basic shapes, square wave. Oscillator B, let's raise up the octave to +1. Raise up the unison to 2, lower that detune. Turn on your filter, let's do MG low 18. Turn on for A and B. Raise up that resonance, raise up that drive. Now go to your envelope 1, adjust it a bit like this. Assign your envelope 1 to your cutoff and adjust the modulation like this. Now we can just add a light compressor and then throw on a utility plugin to make sure that bass is in mono.
But what you talking about?
Let's make the bass from Disconnected by James Hype and Tita. Oscillator A, let's do analog basic shapes. Raise up that level. Oscillator B, let's also do basic shapes. Lower the level to 0. Go back to oscillator A and do FM from B. Raise it up to about here. Now adjust your envelope 1. Make it look a bit like this. Now go to your envelope 2 and adjust your envelope 2 a bit like this. Assign the envelope 2 to FM from B and adjust it like this. Now go to your LFO 1, adjust it like this. Turn off BPMs, raise up that rate. Turn on envelope. Now go to your matrix and let's do LFO 1 and then global master tune and raise this up to about here. And that's going to give us that knock sound. Now turn on your filter and let's do MG low 24. Assign your envelope 2 to the cutoff. Adjust the modulation like this. Raise up that resonance. Raise up that drive. Now let's add on some tube distortion. Raise up that drive and lower that mix. Then add on hyper dimension. Lower that mix. Then I can add on an EQ, adding a mid to low range boost. And then after that, you can put your bass frequencies into mono using the utility plugin. And then a sidechain compressor like the Kickstart 2.
I feel a little disconnected. Nothing but a...
Let's make the bass to Free Your Body by Chris Lake and Solardo. Oscillator A, let's do analog basic shapes, and we'll do a square wave. Raise up the unison to 2. Oscillator B will also do basic shapes. Raise it up to a saw wave. Raise up the octave. Raise up the unison to 2. Lower that detune a tiny bit. Now go to your envelope 1 and adjust it a bit like this. Now let's do FM from B, and then assign envelope 1 to your FM from B. Adjust the modulation a bit like this. Turn on your filter. Let's do MG low 18. Turn on for A and B. Assign envelope 1 to the cutoff. Adjust the modulation a bit like this. Raise up your resonance and raise up your drive. Now let's add on some distortion. I'll do 0 square. Assign envelope 1 to the drive. Adjust the modulation like this and lower that mix. Then I'll add on another filter and do MG low 12. Assign envelope 1 to the cutoff. Adjust the modulation like this. Raise up the resonance to about here and raise up your drive a bit. And then I'll add an EQ8 around 200 Hertz to take out the low end. And then I'm going to layer that synth with a sub layer. And that's just going to be a square wave, a saw wave, a filter, and then your envelope with a bit of release. And make sure your voicing is on mono. Then add some saturation, and then of course a sidechain compressor.
To free your body.
Let's make the bass from House Arrest by Sofi, Tukker, and Gorgon City. Oscillator A, let's do analog basic shapes. Lower the octave -2. Oscillator B, let's do basic shapes. Lower the octave -1. And then let's do FM from B. Raise that up. Let's adjust our envelope 1 so it looks a bit like this. Now let's adjust LFO 1 so it looks like this. Turn off BPM, slow down the rate. Turn on envelope. Then assign LFO 1 to your FM from B. Adjust a bit like this. Now let's add on a compressor. Then let's add on some distortion. I'm going to do asymmetric. Lower the drive, lower the mix. And then add on a sidechain compressor or kickstart 2. Let's make the bass from You Little Beauty by Fisher. Oscillator A, let's do analog basic shapes. Lower the octave -2. Square wave. Turn on oscillator B. Let's do analog basic shapes. Turn the level all the way down. Lower at -2 octave. And let's do FM from B and raise that up. Turn on your filter. Let's do MG low 24. Raise up this drive. Go to your voicing and turn on mono. Now go to your envelope 1. Adjust a bit like this. Assign your envelope 1 to the cutoff. Adjust the modulation a bit like this. Now let's add on a compressor. And let's add on some tube distortion. Raise up the drive, lower the mix. And then let's add on a little EQ boost around 130 Hertz. Let's make the bass to Noizu's Moon Groove. Leave oscillator A on the default wavetable. Turn on your filter. Let's do MG low 18. Raise your fat all the way up. Raise up your resonance a bit. Raise up the drive. Go to your voicing and select mono. Now let's adjust your envelope 1 and make your envelope 1 look a bit like this. Now send your envelope 1 to your filter cutoff and then adjust your modulation so it looks like this. Finally, add on your sidechain compression.
So follow me to the moon. We can
Let's make the bass from Move It by Valentino and Dillon Francis. Oscillator A, let's go to basic MCB. Lower the octave -2. Raise up the level. Go to your noise. Let's do kick attack 30. Turn on a one shot. Adjust your envelope 1 so it looks a bit like this. Then go to envelope 2 and adjust it a bit like this. Turn on your filter and let's do MG low 24. Assign envelope 2 to your filter and adjust the cutoff. Raise up the drive. Go to your voicing and turn on mono. Turn on your distortion and let's do a hard clip. Raise up the drive. Turn down the mix. Turn on the filter. Let's add on a compressor now and let's lower the mix. Turn on hyperdimension. Raise up the unison to 5. Lower the mix. Turn on retrigger. Then go to dimension, lower the size and raise up the mix. Turn on your EQ and let's take out some of that low end. Let's make the bass from Pump the Brakes by Dolla. Oscillator A, let's lower the octave -2. Let's adjust our envelope so it looks like this. Give it some release. Let's go to our voicing and turn on mono. And I'm going to turn on the filter and do MG low 24. And now I'm going to assign envelope 1 to the cutoff and I'll adjust the modulation a bit like this. Let's go ahead and turn up the drive.
close the hood, grab the keys, baby.
Let's make the bass from John Summit's In Chicago. Turn on your sub, -3 octave. Oscillator A, let's do basic shapes. Square wave, -2 octave. Lower the level a bit. Turn on oscillator B. Let's do basic shapes. Saw wave. Raise up the level. -1 octave. Turn on your filter. Let's do MG low 24. Turn it on for A, B, and your sub. Lower the cutoff. Turn up your drive. Go to your voicing, turn it on for mono, and then raise up the portamento. Go to your effects now, and let's add on a compressor. Let's add some distortion. We'll do the tube, and then turn on the filter. Raise up the drive. Lower the mix. Then sidechain your bass with your kick. I like to use kickstart 2. Let's make the FM bass tab from Hey Pablo by Antioch. Oscillator A, let's go to analog BD sign, raise up that level, lower the octave to -2. Turn on oscillator B. Let's also do analog BD sign. Adjust the fine tuning a tiny bit, lower the level all the way. Go back to the warp knob on oscillator A and do FM from B. Raise it up to about 30%. Go to your envelope 1, give it some release. Go to your envelope 2 and make it look a bit like this. Assign your envelope 2 to FM from B. Adjust the modulation like this. Turn on mono for your voicing. Turn on your filter and do MG low 18. Assign envelope 2 to the cutoff. Adjust the modulation like this. Raise up that resonance and raise up that drive to about 30%. Let's add on some distortion. I'm going to do soft clip. Raise up that drive. Lower that mix. Then let's add a low cut EQ around 250 Hertz. And then I'll add on a compressor.
Hey Pablo.
Let's make the 808 bass from Hey Pablo by Antioch. Also, let's do analog BD sign. Raise up that wavetable position. And let's raise up that level. Now go to your envelope 1. Adjust it a bit like this. Go to your LFO 1 and make it look like this. Turn off BPM, raise up that rate, turn on your envelope. Now go to your matrix, let's do source LFO 1 and send that to your global master tuning. Make sure this arrow only goes to the right and let's adjust the amount to, let's say, 10. Turn on mono for your voicing, turn on your filter. Let's do MG low 24 and let's raise up that drive. Now I'm going to add on some soft clip. Turn on this post filter. Let's raise it to about 3 kilohertz. Raise up that drive, lower that mix. And then after that, I'll add on a compressor.
Hey Pablo.
Let's make the bass to Magic Carpet by Kyle Watson, Part 1. Oscillator A, lower the octave -1. Lower the random to 0. Turn on oscillator B. Leave it on the default preset. Raise up the unison to 2. Lower that detune. And let's go ahead and lower that level. Go ahead and turn your voicing on to mono. Go to your envelope 2, adjust it like this, give it some release, turn on your filter. Let's do MG low 18. Now assign envelope 2 to the cutoff, adjust the modulation, raise up that resonance a tiny bit and raise up that drive. Make sure to turn on the filter for A and B. Let's add on some distortion. I'll do hard clip, raise up that drive, lower that mix. Then I'll add an EQ bump around 80 Hertz. And then a kickstart 2 for some sidechain compression. Let's make the bass do Magic Carpet by Kyle Watson part 2. Let's make the bass pluck layer. Oscillator is going to analog basic shapes, square wave, lower the octave -1, turn on oscillator B, leave it on the default preset, raise up the unison to 2, lower that detune. Go to your envelope 1, adjust it like this. Turn your voicing on to mono, turn on your filter, let's do MG low 18, assign envelope 1 to the cutoff, adjust the modulation, raise up your resonance to about 60% and turn up your drive. Make sure to turn your filter on for A and B. Now it's on some tube distortion, raise up that drive, lower that mix. And then I'll add a low cut EQ around 200 Hertz.
In my heart, like.
Let's make the bass to Make Me Feel by John Summit. John Summit actually used an audio sample to make this bass.
I actually just used a saw bass, like one shot.
And when you pitch down an audio sample, you can get this really cool graininess. So I'm going to try to replicate that in Serum. So with oscillator A, I'm going to leave it on the default preset, lower the octave to -1. Then I'm going to go to my warp knob and select sync. And then I'll raise this up to about 1.32%. And that's going to give some extra texture to this saw wave. Then I'll raise up the level. Select mono for my voicing. Now I'll add on some tube distortion, raise the drive all the way up. Then I'll add on an EQ and add a 5 dB boost around 120 Hertz or so. Then I'll add on my filter and I'll do MG low 24 and I'll adjust the cutoff to about 200 Hertz, raise up the resonance a tiny bit and raise up that drive. And then I'll add on a kickstart 2 for some sidechain compression. Let's make the bass from MAMI by Lorenzo. Oscillator A, let's do analog basic shapes, lower the octave -1, lower this random all the way, raise up the level, turn on oscillator B, let's do analog basic shapes, saw wave, turn down random all the way, and turn down the level all the way. Go back to oscillator A, and let's do FM from B, raise this up to let's say 33%. Now go to your envelope 1, slow down the attack, give it some release. Go to your envelope 2, adjust a bit like this. Go to your voicing, turn on mono. Now let's go to your filter, assign envelope 2 to the cutoff, adjust the modulation a bit like this, raise up that drive. Now go to your effects and let's go ahead and add on a compressor. And then I'm going to add an EQ boost around 100 Hertz or so. And then add on a kickstart 2 for my sidechain compression.
Me and mommy doing drugs in a penthouse suite. Way too good and way too free, so we let.
Let's make the bass to Pump It Up by Endor. Oscillator A, let's do analog BD sine. Let's raise up that wavetail position. Turn on oscillator B. Let's do analog BD sine as well. Lower this 1 octave. Go back to the warp knob on oscillator A. Let's do FM from B. Let's raise this up to let's say 44%. Go to your envelope 1 and slow down your attack a bit. And maybe slow down the release. Now turn on your filter. Let's do MG low 24. Turn on for A and B. And let's lower this cutoff and raise up that resonance and raise up the drive a tiny bit. Now let's add on some distortion. I'll do the soft clip, turn on this post filter, and let's set it around here. Let's turn up that drive and lower that mix. Now let's add on a compressor, and then I'll add on an EQ. I'll set the frequency around 50 Hertz and then give it a boost. And then I'll add on a kickstart 2.
Don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up. Don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump.
Let's make the bass to You Give Me a Feeling by Vintage Culture and James Hyde. Oscillator A, let's do digital, FM splat. I'll raise up this wavetail position a tiny bit to 7, lower the octave -1. Turn on oscillator B. Let's do analog basic shapes, saw wave, lower the octave -1, raise up the unison of 3, lower that detune, lower the level a tiny bit. Go to your voicing and turn on mono. Turn on your filter. Let's do MG low 24. Turn on for A and B, and also turn on your key tracking. Let's raise up that resonance and raise up that drive. Now go to your envelope 1, adjust it a bit like this. Assign your envelope 1 to the cutoff. Adjust the modulation a bit like this. Now add on a compressor, then add on some tube distortion. Let's lower that mix. And then I'll add on some light reverb, and then cut off the low end with an EQ8. Let's make the bass to Angel Dust by Solardo. Turn on your sub, lower it -1 octave, select direct out. Oscillator A, let's do analog basic shapes, sine wave, lower the octave -1. Turn on oscillator B, let's do analog basic shapes, sine wave as well. Lower the level all the way. Go back to oscillator A and select FM from B. Raise it up to about 50. Go to your envelope 1, adjust it a bit like this. Assign your envelope 1 to the level of your sub, adjust the modulation. Assign your envelope 1 to the level of oscillator A, adjust the modulation. Select mono for your voicing. Let's add on a compressor. Then let's cut out some frequencies around 250 Hertz. Then I'll add on a delay, and I'll do an 1/8 note ping pong delay. And then I'll add on a hall reverb, lower that size and decay, adjust that low cut. And then I'll add on a kickstart 2 for some sidechain compression. Let's make the FM bass step from left to right by Oddmob. So Oddmob made the sound with a sample, but I wanted to remake it in Serum. Also, let's do analog BD sine, raise up that level, adjust that wavetail position to about 180, add on a hard clip distortion, and turn on that post filter around 480 Hertz, raise the drive all the way up. Also, let's do basic shapes in a sine wave, lower the level all the way, adjust your envelope 1, adjust your envelope 2, assign your envelope 2 to the warp knob of oscillator A, select FM from B, adjust that modulation to about 53, and that's how we'll get that knock sound. Turn on mono for your voicing. Now let's add on a phaser. Adjust the settings like this. Set the mix to 60%. Add on a flanger. Raise up the rate a tiny bit. Adjust these settings like this. Set the mix to about 16%. Add on a low cut EQ around 190 Hz. And then a boost around 1000 Hz. Now it's really quiet, so let's add on a compressor. Then I'll add on an MG low 24 filter. Set the cutoff to about 1250 Hz. Raise up that resonance and drive. Then I'll add on hall reverb. Lower the size and decay and raise up that low cut. And raise up that mix to about 30%. Let's make that knock bass and struck by Kyle Walker. This is a really popular tech house style bass, but because of how low it is, I recommend using headphones to hear it. Also, let's do analog basic shapes, sine wave. Let's raise up that level. Adjust your envelope one like this. Give it some release. Go to voicing, turn on mono. Adjust your alpha 1. Turn on envelope. Turn off BPM. Set the rate to 20 Hz. Assign alpha 1 to the coarse tuning of oscillator A. Adjust the modulation to about 24. And this is how we'll get that knock sound. Let's add on some tube distortion. We can add on the post filter around 600 Hz. Adjust the drive to about 60%. Adjust the mix to about 50%. Add a dip around 250 Hz. And then some heavy sidechain compression with the kickstart too. Let's make the bass to Get Stupid by Cloonee. I'll set it to analog BD sine. Raise up that wavetable position. Turn on oscillator B. Let's do basic MCB. Go to your voicing, turn on mono. Turn on your filter. Let's do MG low 24. Turn on for A and B. Adjust your cutoff to about 260 Hz. Raise your drive to about 30%. Let's add on a compressor. Now let's add on some distortion. I'll do soft clip. Raise up that drive. Lower that mix. Now add an EQ bump around 150 Hz. And then I'll add a kickstart 2 for some sidechain compression. Let's make the bass to Check Out by Worra. Oscillator A, let's do analog basic shapes, sine wave, low the octave -1. Turn on oscillator B. Let's also do analog basic shapes. Go back to oscillator A, and on the warp knob, select FM from B. Raise it up to about 27%. Now go to envelope 2. Adjust it a bit like this. Assign envelope 2 to the FM from B. Adjust the modulation. Turn your voicing on to mono. Turn on your filter. Let's do MG low 24. Turn on for A and B. Assign envelope 2 to the cutoff. Adjust the modulation. Raise up that resonance. Raise up that drive. And raise up that fat. Now let's add on some tube distortion. Raise up that drive. Lower that mix. Then add on a chorus. Raise up that rate. Lower that delay. Lower that depth. Raise up that feedback. Raise up that low pass filter. And lower that mix. Add on a reverb. Lower that size and lower that decay. Raise up that low cut. Then add an EQ boost around 400 Hz. And then add some light sidechain compression. Let's make the bass solid to Dom Dolla's remix of New Gold. Oscillator A, let's do analog basic shapes, saw wave, select sync, raise it up, pan it to the left. Oscillator B, let's also do basic shapes, saw wave, adjust that fine tuning, pan it to the right. Let's add on a tube distortion, raise up that drive and then lower that mix. Let's add on a filter, let's do band 12. Adjust your alpha 1 like this, set your rate to 2 bars and set the mode to envelope. Assign your alpha 1 to your cutoff, adjust that modulation. Raise up your resonance, drive and fat. Add on a compressor, add on a high cut EQ around 6 or 7 kHz. And then add on some sidechain compression.